Supreme Court dismisses appeals challenging victory of President Bola Tinubu in the February presidential election. Oppose the declaration and return of Tinubu as duly elected.
President Tinubu says Supreme Court decision validates his victory as PDP and Labour parties express disappointment.
Senate confirms ICPC Chairman Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu are members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission.
And our subject matter for discussion on Good Morning Nigeria today will be the Supreme Court decision on the presidential election.
The Supreme Court yesterday upheld the declaration and return of Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the duly elected president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Now, the seven-man panel of justices, headed by His Lordship Honorable Justice John Inyang Okoro, in a unanimous verdict, dismissed the two pending appeals challenging the victory of President Tinubu in the February presidential elections.
The Apex Court dismissed the appeal filed by Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), for lacking in merit.
In a late judgment read by the head of the seven-man panel, the court said that it lacked jurisdiction to hear the motion seeking for the leave of the court for Atiku as an appellant to tender fresh evidence concerning the academic credentials of President Tinubu.
On the Independent National Electoral Commission's failure to transmit election results electronically via the IREF portal, the court said the development did not in any way affect the outcome of the election and cannot be ground for nullification of result of the presidential election.
The justices also did not see merit on the issue of Tinubu's inability to secure 25% of the votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory. Their lordships held that this does not deny the president victory in the elections. Now, it also held that President Tinubu, on the basis of the quality of votes in any part of the country, didn't have scored 25% in the FCT.
And on the appeal for an extension of 21 days for submission of evidence and calling of additional witnesses, the court said the provisions of the Constitution and Electoral Act 2022 do not allow for an extension of time. Justice Okoro affirmed that the issue is status barred.
Now, on the alleged non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 at the polling units, the lordships held that Atiku Abubakar failed to call his polling unit agents to prove his case. Hence, the evidence of his witnesses were hearsay and therefore inadmissible.
The court also resolved all the 7 issues formulated by Atiku Abubakar for determination against the appellant. The Apex Court also dismissed the appeal of Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of Labour Party, for lacking in merit.
Now, the one issue raised in Peter Obi's appeal, which was different from Atiku, was that of double nomination of Vice President Kashim Shettima, which the court held it had earlier dealt with in the matter of Allied People's Movement, that's APM.
The 7-man panel of the Supreme Court, comprising Justice John Inyang Okoro, Justice Uwani Musa Abba Aji, Justice Mohammed Lawa Garba, Justice Ibrahim Salu Lawa, Justice Asamu Jauro, Justice Tijani Abubakar, and Justice Emmanuel Ajen delivered the judgment on the day 2 appeals yesterday.
Now, today, our panel of conversationists as guests will be focusing on the issues arising from the judgment of yesterday, plus matters following from the decision. Now that the matter of the presidential election has been finally settled, what next? I'm Kingsley Osadolo. Welcome you to this edition of Good Morning Nigeria.
And I am Ademola Adeoye. I also welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, the last episode for the week. We are reaching you live from our studios here in the nation's capital, Abuja. In the course of the program, we shall take highlights of the morning news, some business news, and other segments as well as a newspaper review. For now, let's get the morning news with Amina Seidu Abubakar. Hello, Amina. How are you today?
Hello, Kingsley and Ademola. Good morning. Here's the news. Nigerians can now expect more dividends of democracy from the current administration, as President Bola Tinubu says his full concentration is now how to deliver good governance that will improve the socio-economic life of the citizens. Ms. Baudan Wahab reports that the president was reacting to this Thursday's Supreme Court verdict, which gave him final validation to his victory in the February 25, 2023 presidential election.
The court has demonstrated in this visible commitment to rule of law and humanity, and their commitment to do justice for all Nigerians, regardless of ethnic, religious, or any other biases.
Elsewhere, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, says it is disappointed by the judgment of the Supreme Court in the petition filed by the PDP and presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar against the declaration of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu as winner of the February 25, 2023 presidential election by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The party's national Publicity Secretary Debo Olagunagba in a statement said the PDP and majority of its supporters are alarmed, disappointed and gravely concerned with the reasoning of the Supreme Court, which the PDP believes is against the express provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, the Electoral Act 2022, the guideline and regulation issued by the INEC under which the election was conducted. It added that the Supreme Court failed to uphold the provision of the law, stressing that instead it trashed the expectation of majority of members who looked up to it as a temple of impartiality to deliver substantial justice in the matter having regards to the laws and facts of the case. The statement adds that the PDP remains undeterred and charges its members and supporters not to be discouraged or allow the judgment to distract their collective quest for the entrenchment of a credible electoral system that can guarantee a government that truly derives its legitimacy from the people. Leadership of the Labour Party has expressed surprise over the Supreme Court's judgment on the presidential election, which upheld the election of President Bola Tinubu. National chairman of the party, Julius Abure, who addressed a press conference in Abuja, said, despite the court's judgment, the party is convinced that majority of the Nigerians voted for the party during the election, despite the outcome. He called on Nigerians not to lose hope in the collective quest to build a better Nigeria and urged all supporters of the party, especially those elected on its platform, to remain firm with the dream of the party.
We are going to stand and play the role of opposition. Awolowo was said it very clearly that the soul of democracy is opposition. And part of the reasons why we have crisis in our country is because before now, we've not had credible, viable, and vibrant opposition political party.
The Senate has confirmed Dr. Musa Adamu Aliyu as chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices Commission. During the screening, Aliyu assured the lawmakers that his tenure at the ICPC will be proactive in tackling corruption and recovery of public assets. Also screened and confirmed by the Senate are Saka Bolaji Suleiman and Professor Gajit Antata as members of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. Deputy President of the Senate, Barrow Jibrin, urges them to provide quality service to Nigeria.
Their best to the service of this great nation.
As women strive for more roles in governance, they must endeavor to match the expectations and images of the offices they seek by acquiring the needed etiquette. Nigeria's First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu stated this while opening a 3-day seminar on protocol and security organized by her office for wives of top government functionaries and female officials in Abuja. Understanding protocols as well as having security awareness, the First Lady says, is important to executing their various offices.
Security awareness is crucial for us to be able to identify risk, threats, unsafe and unusual behaviors, and to take appropriate measure to safeguard ourselves, our families, and our assets.
The Katsina State Command of the Nigeria Correctional Service has vowed to unravel the circumstances which led to the notorious October 17 prison break at the Medium Security Custodial Center after apprehending a convict in a statewide manhunt who fled. Inmate Abakala, who is in custody, is a convict charged for armed robbery and grand theft.
We recaptured one of the 2 escapees, and remaining one, efforts will not be relented. Such is on the entrance through our e-system and other avenues to see that he is brought to custody very soon, God willing.
And that's the news for now. After this break, Ademola and Kingsley will take you through the rest of the program.
Mr. Parivia, Chukwudi Okole Abuja is right here with us in the studios. Chukwudi, good morning and welcome.
Hello, Kingsley. Good morning. Good morning, Demola.
Good to see you, Kingsley.
Same here.
Right.
And it's Friday.
Yeah, it is Friday. You're welcome.
Good. Thank you.
Now, let's start with the newspaper review this morning. And the first paper we're looking at is the Daily Trust. Just below the nameplate, we have Supreme Court upholds Tinubu's election, dismisses Atiku Obi's appeal. Let's build Nigeria together, says the president. Judgment disappointing PDP. We are shocked, but we move on. LP. Wait till 2031. APC tells Atiku Obi. Verdict, a welcome relief. Buhari, all on page 4. And we have this congratulatory message by the High Chief congratulating the president on his victory. Inside the page, we have reps ask federal government to auction police barracks, build befitting accommodation. That's on page 3. Senate seeks lasting solution to flooding. The same story on page 3. Insecurity, unmanned area vehicles, drone production launched to tackle kidnapping and banditry. Action Aid, Nigeria condemns extravagant vehicles purchased by National Assembly. Reps pro persistent loss of firearms from police armament. U.S. tax Muslim Christians leaders over HIV and AIDS discrimination. We move on to the nation's newspaper. Above the nameplate, we have verdict ends. 8-month legal battle, says Buhari. The story can be gotten on page 3. SGF, Speaker, Governors visit President. Hail verdict. Same story on page 3. Wike, I will support the president again. No regret for my actions. That story can be gotten on page 5. And below the nameplate, we have triumphant Tinubu. Congratulations, Mr. President. We have stories congratulating the president on page 2, 3, and 4. And inside the paper, We still have more of the congratulatory messages. PDP, LP express disappointment. Justice has been served, says the president. Kingsley.
Yes, thank you very much, Ademola. We also have the Punch, and the front page is, of course, the same lead story as you have read. Tinubu triumphs after 171-day battle. Nigerians present wish list to president after Supreme Court victory. Judgment shocking and dashed Nigerians' expectations, say PDP and Labour Party. There are other stories, of course, you'll find inside the paper, that's to say the Punch newspaper. Well, very quickly, let's take some of the headlines. We are not able to project those headlines right now on the screen for you. Travelers and motorists stranded as protest rocks Edo over bad road. That's the Benin Agbo Asaba highway. The youths at Ohobe in Ipobaoha local government area are protesting the poor state of the road, and this has been on since Wednesday. Now, Lagos demolishes more buildings in Ikota Villa. These are structures said to be on the waterways in the state. Some of the structures have come down. How Uniport student killed girlfriend and harvested organs. That's according to the police. Now, the student is a 400 level petrochemical engineering student at the University of Port Harcourt, and is alleged to have killed his girlfriend and harvested her organs, apparently for ritual purposes. Now, the girlfriend was also a 300 level undergraduate at University of Port Harcourt. She was studying biochemistry. After allegedly killing her, he left the body in his apartment for some days. It was the strong smell oozing from that apartment that attracted the curiosity of some neighbors. Now, another story on page 4 says police nab Plateau student for killing neighbor's child after collecting ransom. And this is a 17-year-old student in Plateau State. His name is also there. Slain Rivers DPO. Operatives kill one, arrest 5 more suspects. And then, so those are the stories, basically. But also, very quickly, let's take this from page 7 of the Punch newspaper. Akeredolu rebuffs Ayedatiwa's apology, insists on assembly probe. Akeredolu rebuffs Ayedatiwa's apology. Ayedatiwa is his deputy, by the way, insists on assembly probe. Hadiza Usman's book, Full of Lies Against Me, that's Rotimi Amechi, was speaking yesterday in Lagos. Chukudi, I think we'll come in here now, and then let's take a look at what's trending.
What's happening to our students on the campuses? It's become the campuses are becoming a center for criminals posing as students. Yes, maybe they wrote an exam, got into the institution, but the core of their life revolves around criminality, and it's a shame. We were used to some cult members carrying coffins at night and all that, but it never got this bad.
Yeah.
What is happening to our country, our youth?
It's sad.
The main story, of course, is the president's final triumph, the Supreme Court. Actually, the president, the former president, whom he succeeded, had reason to speak up from Daura. And he's saying that it's a welcome relief that this has happened. We normally do not allow the front page of newspapers to be taken up by congratulatory messages. So it's an unspoken principle. But today, you can see that High Chief Government Ekpemupolo Elias Tompolo, who is chairman of the Tantita Security Services Nigeria Limited, is virtually on the front pages of all the newspapers. Nobody batted an eyelid over, taking that promotional. That's to tell you the mood generally. And I say, if you had noticed, throughout the process of adjudication, I personally refrain from comments on the court process, firstly, in order not to impugn a matter in court, but maybe more importantly, because at a point, it became a back and forth. I couldn't quite follow anymore. But I had to speak up about 5 days ago. No, I think it's about a week and a half ago, when the litigants challenged the BBC's stance that the president couldn't possibly have forged, his papers. That was when I spoke up, because I felt that my clan was being attacked in terms of how to do a story.
Okay.
Let politicians stay on their turf and leave us. Particularly the huge BBC, which I openly called one of my instructors on journalism and the art of speaking. You don't go near them. That was when I spoke up about it. But the whole point at the end of the day is that nobody is quarreling with all the court process and all that. I keep on saying that all these will strengthen our electoral process. The former chairman of INEC, Atahiru Jega, was speaking the other time. I was actually suggesting that electronic, was it now?
Transfer.
Electronic publication of the votes as they happen could help credibility. He was making a suggestion. Yeah. These are things we have to learn so we become a stronger democracy. So there's something to learn from it all. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, can governance now be allowed to continue in earnest? Very important, because some of these things do distract.
That formed our discussion for today's
program. Oh, that's a good one.
That's what we discussed.
So let's not belabor the point there.
So, yeah.
An interesting one there, Demola. Travelers and motorists were stranded in Benin, Edo State on Thursday as residents of Ohoe in the Igboboha local government area protested the poor state of the Benin Abo Onitsha Road. I mentioned this about 2 weeks ago and actually said that somebody had done the attire of a prophet with one huge bell and was telling the whole world that it's become an eyesore what's happening, as you try to get into Rome Junction from that many spread. It has become something else. It doesn't just make sense anymore. I had to confess that I love driving, but I don't drive on that road anymore because it doesn't make sense. Some of these stranded passengers said they've spent 2 days. Some people started playing football, in the middle of the road. It's ridiculous. Something needs to be done on the road on that axis. I was surprised that the former administration did not work intensely on that road. I was surprised, I have to say that, Whereas we heard about roads that were being repaired in some other parts of the country. It's a very busy, commercial, productive road. Let us even concentrate on that and leave sentiment out of it. I think that road should be worked on. It should be worked on.
It's not only that road, but so many roads in the country, across the country, that needs to be worked on.
The part of what is sometimes also forgotten is that Edo State is a junction state in the country. It takes traffic
connecting state.
From the southwest, takes traffic from the south-south, takes traffic from the southeast, all then moving up north. Now, the axis on which they are protesting, this is the Benin Agbo Onitsha Expressway, goes to the southeast. And that road had collapsed. The section that over which they are protesting now, for several kilometers, had collapsed. And then you ask yourself, where is the federal controller of works? Because there's an aspect of the story reading that, the Edo State government should have done some palliatives work. And so the Edo State government, now listen to this, the other major arterial road, it's the Benin or Expressway, bringing traffic from Lagos, and the southwest. Access. Around Ovia River, that portion collapsed. Now, it took the palliative work of the Edo State government, and there was a signboard they placed there some time ago saying that, bear with us, the one that Lagos did during Tinubu's time.
You're reminding me about Lagos.
What they did, bear with us.
That was a smart one.
But it was the Edo State government that fixed that. And there were several accidents on that bridge, Ovia Bridge, as a result of that bad portion. That's one arterial road. Go to Benin Auchi Road, Of course, after Ekpoma is impassable, but Auchi itself is a nightmare.
All gone.
So that is what will take you to Abuja. Now, go to this the other one, Benin Sapele Warrior Road. I spoke about that some time ago after a fuel tanker exploded and many persons were incinerated. That road also had collapsed and nothing was. So I don't know if it is politics or whatever it was or whatever it is. It should be, you have a federal controller that works. You can't keep pushing it and saying that let's go and do palliative work, go and do palliative work. Some of those roads have been assigned as part of the tax credit infrastructure reconstruction work. Why has work not started? People are losing man hours. East-West Road, how long does it take? Now, I hear it's a nightmare to travel by road from Yenagoa to Port Harcourt.
It couldn't all be happening at the same time. You know, they will not just observe that maybe it's our sentiment. I use that road. Maybe it's sentiment on my part. But to just observe that the roads in other parts of the country are not any better.
Yeah, they are not at all.
We have to.
Coming from Lokoja to Abuja, have you applied the road? No, it's horrible.
So what have we been doing with, what have we been doing in respect of our roads? Us noise?
That's the point.
Well, I think the Minister for Works has promised that this present administration will do something. There's this story that is interesting to me. Otedola gives 750 million to 750 pupils in the university. It's part of, assisting government in education, funding education. He did that because of the, the challenges the students are facing right now, and being able to meet up with their school fees and all that. What do you have to say to that?
Let me say that, first of all, the persona of Otedola has always been something that I smile at.
I think that act is commendable, actually.
His courage, his deportment. This man is a rich man. But you get the impression of an ordinary human being, when you see him do his things. Of course, philanthropy is undertaken by people, different personalities from time to time. But I want to say that the track record of this man in terms of trying to alleviate the human suffering is something we should commend. He's not the only one who is into oil business or whatever his businesses, his other businesses are. But there are people who still tie their money to their belt and tell you think it's easy to make money. Go and try it yourself. So it is a highly commendable thing. Imagine the succor, the relief this has brought. I just pray that they use the money properly.
That's a very important point. I don't know which institutions are these students or
University, Augustine University in Ekpe. That's his hometown.
His hometown, yes.
Yeah,
it's from that
Lagos East, actually. Yes. It's from Ekpe. But I think it's
how is it disbursing? Okay, you couldn't have
individual students.
I know. Yes. Yeah, I was thinking, is he going to say what are the fees these people are paying? We pay directly and all that. That's what I meant by.
I believe so.
I think that
it has to be that way.
I believe so. Because you can't give
individual
1 million.
No.
Some of them will
I think it paid directly to the school.
They'll buy a motorcycle and not be able to fuel it.
I think it's commendable, actually. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you, Chuks.
Some of them will pop shop.
Anyway, that's all we can take today on the news.
I'm sorry, our babes will flood.
It's okay. You're human after all.
Okay, Kingsley. But that's all we can take on newspaper review this morning. Thank you, Chuks.
Demola. See you guys on Monday.
See you too. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, before we begin our conversation, which is on the Supreme Court judgment on the presidential election, let's listen to this background report by our legal correspondent, Austin Ayebe.
The Supreme Court commenced its judgment with a ruling on whether to admit fresh evidence which bordered on the deposition of alleged forged certificate by the president. While it held that it has jurisdiction to hear the application, it refused to accept the fresh evidence as it will amount to opening the case all over. The court held that appellant failed to take advantage of the 180 days provided by the Electoral Act 2022 for the determination of petitions to obtain the document sought to be tendered from Chicago State University. On the main appeal, which formulated 7 issues for determination bordering on non-compliance by INEC to the Electoral Act 2022, refusal to extend time for additional witnesses and documents, 25% requirement for a candidate to win presidential election as it affects FCT, electoral fraud, among others, the court resolved all against the appellants and upheld the decision of the Election Petition Court. The court dismissed the appeal in its entirety. The Supreme Court, equally in the appeal by the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi, having adopted all resolutions reached in Atiku's case, dismissed the appeal.
To congratulate the leaders of the opposition political parties, because it is better for them to resort to judiciary, which they have done so.
It's about everybody. It's not about a party. It's not about an individual. And if we do not come together now, then we'll have ourselves to blame. Opposition is not, you don't oppose for the sake of opposition. Elections are over, litigation is over. All litigation must come to an end. Now is the time for governance. Distractions over.
I want to salute the judges of the Supreme Court as well. It was straight to the point. And I believe that this judgment would be seen worldwide as that which is in line with global best practices in law.
Collecting or having the status quo, you must not win FCT before you are declared president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. That FCT is like another state.
The judgment put to rest all contending issues about the 2023 presidential election. From the Supreme Court, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
And to discuss the Supreme Court judgment on the February 2023 presidential election, let's welcome to our studio. We have in our studio this morning Dr. Sijuade Kayode, legal practitioner. Glad to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you. Also here in our studios in Abuja is Ezenwa Nwagu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms. Ezenwa, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to be here.
Okay, and to also participate in this conversation, let's welcome a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria, Oluwole Osaze-Oze, who is the learned Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Edo State, and former Director of Legal of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Osaze-Oze, we're glad to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And also joining us for today's conversation from our Kaduna Network Center is Dr. Keilani Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed is the National Coordinator, Confederation of APC Support Groups. Dr. Mohammed, we're glad to have you this morning.
Very much.
All right, so gentlemen, once again, welcome to the program. As the saying goes, there's an end to litigation, and yesterday was the end of the road with respect to disputations arising from the February 25th, 2023 presidential elections. What are your thoughts? Let's begin with Sijuade Kayode.
All right. I'm very glad, and I know a lot of Nigerians are also very glad that we have a closure on this matter. I mean, it's been a very thorough 2 to 3 months. The elections and the post-election preparation for all of this. But it's where we have a new electoral law, which was passed last year. And as such, we expected there would be a lot of issues and challenges that will be thrown up for this election. And this we have seen, you know, at the tribunal and now at the Supreme Court. The tribunal made their decision. The parties who lost appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has put all the issues to rest now. and the landscape is clearer. We now understand the interpretation of many, sections of the law, which were a little bit vague to especially the youth who are new in politics, who are just coming into politics. So we are glad that there's an end to this, and of course, like we say in our practice, there must be end to litigation. Supreme Court is final, they've given their decision, and that's the end. Of course, the parties may wish to supplicate to God afterwards, but that's on a private level. But legally speaking, the matter is over, and we have a good closure on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shijwade, for that, your thoughts there. The matter is over. Chief Ezenwa, let me come to you. What is your perception on the implication of this judgment?
First, the implication will be that we call this electoral process. So if once you hear electoral process, it means that judicial oversight is also part of that. There are vistas that have been opened in terms of understanding, first of all, some of the core issues within the electoral process, issues around the role of party agents, the role of, even understanding of the laws. I have, and luckily, Oga Kinsley and I have been on this in terms of civic education. How much do people really follow these processes, including those who play in it? And that's the challenge that is worrying for me. If we have to debate things that are in black and white, written in English language, that does not require, that kind of legal understanding in the way we have seen it. But having said that, what it means is that we can now move on to governance. As Professor Okechukwu Ibanu said some few days ago, election is not enough. We are faced with challenges of infrastructural deficit. We are faced with the challenges of out-of-school children. We are faced with the issues of rising cost of living and poverty. Those processes that we are running was to ensure that the people who will govern, especially at the presidential level, have legitimacy to do so. Now that legitimacy has been conferred on them. The anesthesia that all of us have been under in terms of holding government accountable has been lifted. That veil is out now. We should now face, Guy, it's 100 days, is how many days you've taken this office. There are promises you made. We need to start seeing those things on the ground. So for me, that's the implication. In terms of what litigants or all that is academic right now. What needs to happen is that there's a role for opposition. What is that role for opposition? How much are you going to come into that role? And say, look, if we have issues around Forex, for instance, as alternative government, what are you saying? What can Nigerians hear from you about that challenge? If we have issues about removal of fuel subsidy, do you have something you are thinking that could better all of this? So what are the current policies of the government? What are the alternatives to them? That's what I think opposition does. And then those of us in civil society will begin to do a tracking. We can then begin to say, on health, on education, on this. These are the promises that you made. We want to see actionable, steps that are being taken to actualize those things. That way, we will all then be participating, because it is participatory democracy. If it is just for election, because that's what I've seen, we seem to have organized our political parties to look like vote-catching machines. So once election is over,
we all go to sleep.
We go to sleep. I think that for me, that is what the implication of this judgment will be.
All right. Ezenwa, thank you very much there for that perspective. We'll return to those issues in the course of today's conversation. But let's go over to our Benin Network Center and bring in Oluwole Osaze-Ozie into the conversation at this time. Osaze-Ozie, let me take you to the street which you are quite familiar with in terms of the views sometimes expressed. Some persons say, oh, no presidential election result has ever been upturned in our history, and therefore if you are declared winner, invariably you become winner. But those of you who are experts, and let me leave myself out of it, those of you who are experts have a way of unpacking judicial decisions and indicating that it's not as simple as the views out of the street. Has this been any different?
I find it odd that you leave yourself out. I think you are one of those commentators that albeit perceived to be a neutral one in all that we have discussed concerning the process. That said, I've listened to your other guests and the air of finality they've put onto this this issue. And yes, they're quite right in the context that the Supreme Court has pronounced, and the Supreme Court being the final court, its decision is regarded as infallible, it cannot be questioned, and that's that. But I don't know whether the man on the street will agree, even whether he's knowledgeable in law or not, will agree with that decision, whether it's a correct decision, whether it was a technical decision, or whether it meets the ends of justice. But it's important to say that it's justice according to law. It's not according to what our sentiments are, but according to what the learned justices of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal say it is. So I really honestly don't know the average person on the street. When you see what has happened, when you read what has happened from perspectives of the two-thirds, almost two-thirds of people who did not vote for the APC candidates, then you see that their own views may be very, very different from what the experts or the legal experts say. And if you look at the cases, study the cases, dissect the case, you'll find out that there's even disagreement amongst the legal experts. But I'm happy that legally we have a beacon to look towards when we are discussing issues of that were adjudicated upon in the case, in the two cases, not the two judgments really, that the Supreme Court gave yesterday, both in the PDP matter and in the Peter Obi and Labour matter. So I honestly don't know what I can't feel the pulse of the average person on the street, but going on social media, you find out that some people are not too happy, and to them it's just a technical justice.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Oluwale, for your thoughts on that. I don't know if Dr. Kyle Muhammad, are you still there? Okay, can you hear me? Oh, okay, you can hear me. Okay, now that the matter is settled, the Supreme Court has settled the matter. How can Nigeria unify its polity to ensure that we support credible and responsible democratic governance in the country?
First and foremost, I would like to thank the Chief Justices from the Presidential Tribunal to the Supreme Court. We need to commend them. They have done a very good job. All those that are criticizing this judgment, they don't mean well for this country. We are politicians. Right from the field, we voted overwhelmingly for our President, Mr. Tinubu, APC. He won election. And definitely some people will be aggrieved. Right now, we are talking of governance. We must have to come together, whether you are a Hausa man, a Nupe man, or a Yoruba man. We have over 6,000 ethnic nationalities in this country. God knows why he brought us together. Sentiments, tribalism should be out of the question. What we are saying now, in America, we copy America. You will see that during electionary campaign, they will be fighting, talking against each other. But at the end of the election, they will all come together, they talk about their country, the spirit of nationalism and patriotism. And then they will be guiding the government from time to time on the national policy issues that will, uplift America. I think that's what Obi is supposed to do. For Alhaji Abubakar, well, he's now a statesman. He has been sent to the coolers by professor of politics, that is Ahmed Tinubu. Let him go to the cooler. Some people were saying yesterday that they have been sent to the lawn tennis court because Atiku Abubakar definitely is a northerner, is a serial loser. And we want him to come to be an elderly statesman. He should not be fighting anybody again. Let him assist the government to move the government from what we are today so that there will be a virile, strong, formidable country. We need unity. Some people are making inflammatory statements. Like yesterday after the election, you asked one question about the comments on the streets. We are cautioning them. They are saying they will go to the masses courts to determine what they want.
All right, Dr. Kalani Mohammed, if you can hear us from our headquarters studios, as you can see from the composition of the guests on set this morning, we don't have PDP or Labour Party sympathizers who are here and therefore can respond to what you are saying directly. We would just like you to stay within the issues. You were talking about Atiku Abubakar. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is a former vice president of the Federal Republic, recipient of the National Honor of GCON. I think that we can moderate the way you're trying to reference him or what should happen to him thereafter. We'll come back to you later on in the course of the conversation and then stick with what is particularly critical, as you gentlemen have tried to itemize. Back to the studios here, Dr. Sijuaje Kayode. Again, I want to go back to the street. Because I tried that, and Oluwole, of course, made his point. But going back to the street also includes the social media, that's to say the layman's view of things. People tend to think that, technicality is anti-justice, or technicality doesn't deliver justice according to law. I think it's useful to hear your views about this. Can there be law without technicality, and therefore can there be justice without reference to technicalities, or is it just pure technicality, both or not?
Okay, I'm going to address this from a few perspectives. Like we say, we lawyers are learned people. There's a reason we say that, because we are the ones who know the law, who know the technicalities in the law, and who know the procedure for the law. So laymen on the street usually will say, oh, a lawyer is a liar. Because they will say, oh, this case is so clear, how come the person who is right lost? They don't know the in-depth issues, the legal issues, the technicalities that will go to court to deal with. Now, the popular anagram, when they write 6 on the ground, I'm looking at it from this side, I'm seeing 6. You're on the other side, you're looking at it as 9. Okay? The judges will now decide whether it's 6 or whether it's 9. They will look at whatever, parameters to assess that. Now on the street, there's usually 2 sides to a case, and both of them believe they can win. No matter how bad a case looks or is, a lawyer will take it, believing that with his knowledge and technicalities they can use, they can win that case, while the other side too believes they can win. But when we get to court, we'll apply the law based on our knowledge, based on the books available, and the judges will look at both sides. Most of the time, the facts are usually very clear and straightforward. Clean, the judges can determine easily. Sometimes it's very difficult even for the judges to decide, because even while you are deciding, you are looking at justice as the end game. That even if this man has a bad case, but there should be some level of justice or win for him in this situation. So all of that come into consideration. Now, there can be justice without technicality, like I said, when the matter is very clear, straightforward. But election petition matters are sui generis. They are different totally from normal civil cases. For example, land matters, contract matters. Election is sui generis, is strict. The laws must be complied with. The technicalities, the rules must be complied with. That's why the Supreme Court refused for Alhaji Atiku Abubakar to bring in more evidence when they have closed the hearing of the case. They had all the time in the world. As a matter of fact, at the Court of Appeal level, they had 21 days to file their case. Within that 21 days, all the evidence, all your witness statements must go with your petition, all of them. Because when that time elapses, you cannot bring any document in anymore. It's a very strict procedure. That's why they say it's sui generis. It's different totally from, in normal civil matters, they can expand the time for you anytime to, file a paper or bring in a document, bring in a witness, up to almost judgments. You have all of that time. When you apply, the court will grant it in the interest of justice. But in election matters, the rules are very strict. You must comply. Any non-compliance, you are in trouble. So that's what happened. So it's not a matter of technical justice or not. It's a matter of what our law says, what the Electoral Act says. And the justice, their hands are tied. They must follow it to the letter. So that's what happened. So on the streets, on the social media, a lot of young people do not understand this. But we legal people, we lawyers, we understand. So that's what I would say about that, sir.
A lot of people do not understand this, but you lawyers understand.
Yes.
And that is why this has called for a lot of people calling for a revisit of the 1999 Constitution. What do you have to say to that, Mr. Ezenwa?
Revisit how?
That the 1999 Constitution should be amended to settle all these technicalities and all these gray areas.
Well, I think both for the winner and the loser, what do they apply? I thought it's technicalities. The person who lost will not have said, I'm not going to be involved in technicalities. I'm just going to do. If that is the training, then you have a problem. If your opponent uses technicalities, it shows also that you have issues. So many times I think we are source laziness in my honest view, in terms of the kind of engagement that we have when we are having these kinds of discussions. If you had won, it won't be technicalities. It will be justice. And for us, our definition of justice always has to do with us. Once we win, then justice. Once we lose, then it is technicality. Reverse. So that conversation is an unending one. It cannot end in terms of, so what does the people say in the streets? How do you read? The amendment to the constitution of a country cannot be, the constitution, the electoral act, the one we have now, if we implement it, if we are honest about it, we will let it work for at least 5 years. The challenge is there's a sense in which we are in a hurry always to amend. And permit me, I've been using that. I said we have made an industry out of amendment. Every National Assembly that comes will constitute an amendment committee. Monies will be voted, and then sometimes they don't conclude it. Then how do you people say it? Learned people. When the new people start, you now start from zero again.
We say de novo.
De novo. So you start de novo, you come back again, an industry emerges out of that. I think we should be a bit patient. We passed this law on the 25th of February 2023. The Electoral Act was his first birthday. The day we had that election was his first birthday. 1 year old law, we are already agitating for. There are things that we can tinker with regulations, with all of those issues, but the real issue is that for what do you want to amend? Somebody said a few days ago, I think he's the chairman of INEC, he said the solutions we use for yesterday's problems are the things we are bringing back. Take for instance the issue around the powers of INEC to vet candidates. We had it before. we in anger, the National Assembly removed it and vested the power to the political parties to determine who can contest and who cannot contest, and that nobody can challenge them. And then if you try, they say you are a meddlesome interloper. So, but today, those problems, 700 or so cases in court today, 320 members of the legislature are in court, of the House of Representatives are in court. 90% of it are post-election related issues, not anything to do with conduct of the election, which means that we are beginning to see that the problem we thought we solved by handing over the issues around parties to political parties, I mean around internal party democracy to political parties, those issues are the things that the courts are now try to adjudicate upon. And then so when you hear those people who say, oh, there are many cases in court, but it is our lack of interest in how the political parties are organized, the fluidity of movement from one political party to the other, the issue of waiver, those are things you can't legislate. And the issue of trust, can you legislate trust? I don't know whether you can legislate trust, whether no matter what you do, election is a competitive enterprise. So if you are going to the street, and I liked what the Honorable Attorney General, our friend, by the way, are you seeing how he's shining right now? So he made allusion to that point about the fact that 13 million people voted against the winner. 13 million. 8 million voted for the winner. That 13 million, if we were doing a perception survey, for instance, in the city of Abuja, including those who did not vote, who have one anger or the other. So if you are doing perception survey and you go to the street of Abuja, nobody, I've called a few friends who we've been engaged in all of this. Did you listen to the Supreme Court judgment? They said no, they did not. I said, so, but you will start analysis tomorrow. You start doing analysis tomorrow for what you did not listen to. He said yes. Both of us were in the studio on the presidential court with Dr. Sijo Ade and the rest of them. We stayed through the whole day. We followed that whole process. We listened to almost every word that was spoken on that day. The person you are talking about in the streets didn't have time for that. Most of what carries on is hearsay. Yes, including big people. I've met people who say that what they heard was that there will be electronic transmission. What they heard, I said, but you are a leader of a political party. Did you read the law yourself? The Berean Church, according to Paul in the Christian Bible, says that after they have finished preaching to them, they went back to see whether what they were told
was right or not.
Was right or wrong. You, a political leader. So the street cannot drive the narrative, and that is the challenge that I see we face almost everywhere, where we have allowed the streets to become the drivers of the narrative. What plays in that social media that we are talking about, many of the people who drive the narrative don't even live in Nigeria. They don't have voters card. They did not vote. They sit where they are asking you, what are the chances of Oga Kinsley in this election? What are his chances?
My chances in 2027.
What are his chances? He's living in Canada. He does not live here. And he's also collaborating with other people who are also asking you about somebody's chance. The people who live here. Then you talk about youth, for instance. Oh, what the youth are saying. Did you talk to the youth in Karanamoda? Did you talk to the youth in Ilejemeje? Or you talk to the one who is in Abuja talking, sitting on his laptop every day? The youth is not a homogeneous category that sits in one place, believes in one thing, talks in the same way. They respond to different kinds of stimuli. There is the Muslim youth, there is the Christian youth, there is even within the Christian, there is apostolic youth, there is cherubim youth, there is Anglican youth, there is Pentecostal youth. So these different youths look at issues from different perspectives. So when we sit down and say the youth of Nigeria, which youth? How? The one on the social media? Do they represent the one in my village who is probably right now trying to dig out sand to sell for a living, are they the ones we are talking about that you are extrapolating on their behalf?
The youth in your village will be preparing for the November 11 governorship election.
Also, but not many of them. Some of them also mind their business. So the point that I'm making is, because we were situating around, you know,
right,
what are people saying, how does this, if we do that, then we have a challenge. For those of us who, and I'm happy that even this board, this panel, many of us have connections with, we are participant observers in this process. You go down to that place, people are speaking different language. Oh, poverty is the determinant. Poverty will determine there are people who for the last 40 years, when they open their door, the first thing that comes out is an animal. So whether it was this or that, they don't see any difference. It has nothing to do with with what they are doing.
All right, Ezenwa Nwagu, thank you very much there for your explanations. Let's once again bring in Osaze Uzi, still with us from Benin Network Center. Ezenwa was complimenting your appearance, but I'm sure we should also throw in that being an Attorney General is serious work. And of course, we know that you are neck deep in the work you are doing currently for the Edo State government. But back again, there are some issues that some persons have called attention to. The Electoral Act, the elections of 2023 were, as it were, the first baptism for that Electoral Act. Regulations and guidelines made thereunder were also a test of how well those regulations will go. In your opinion, how well have we fared as an entity, just an electoral, as a country, trying to make the elections much better? We're saying this now in 2023. In 2003, the electoral system was much more contentious, and there are many more loopholes. Those things many would say now or argue aren't so visible anymore. But are we making any much progress in terms of our electoral management, and then, of course, having more credible outcomes?
A rather complex question you ask, Kingsley. First of all, I find it odd that Ezenwa, my brother, will say that he's not emphasizing electoral reform at this stage, considering the name of his organization, Partners for Electoral Reform. Electoral reform is an ongoing process, but whether that involves changing or amending the law is a different issue entirely. So I think he said so in that context. I want to understand him saying that in that context. How much progress have we made? Ezenwa made a good point, a valid point, that look, very often the solutions we prefer to today's problems now turn out to be challenges in tomorrow's election management issue. There are lots of times we've done things. Let's take registration of political parties, for example. Recall that when INEC said, look, let us do more stringent regulations for the registration of political parties, a lot of people kicked. And Gani Fayemi and Barry Musa PRP went to court. And of course, the Supreme Court gave the judgment that it did and said, no, the Constitution has covered the field. It should be made as liberal as it's envisaged in the Constitution. You cannot add other things. But people turned out later and said, look, oh, why is INEC registering so many political parties? Oh, it's for this reason or for that reason. Forgetting that not so long ago, you said that the sky was wide enough for all birds to fly. Take another example that, look, people often ask and say, INEC, why do you not disqualify this person for presenting a forged certificate? Why did you not do this? Why did you not do that? Forgetting that Atiku Abubakar went to court in 2006, 2007, and as a result of that said, INEC has no role to play in the qualification or disqualification of candidates, cannot screen candidates. People tend to forget that, but it's the same 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years down the line, people blame and say, look, why should you allow known criminals to participate in elections? So yes, we tend to forget so easily, and we have to be very careful with the reforms. And I agree entirely that, look, the structure that we have, the laws that we have, if faithfully implemented, will probably solve most, if not all, of our problems. That said, though, I disagree on one aspect of the whole issue, in that for example, and that is the issue of electronic transmission of results. I think that is something that is so desirable, it's so called for by Nigerians, and that was one of the revolutionary things that the Electoral Act of 2023 did. That probably is the most significant innovation in the law. following from the striking down of the mandatory use of the card reader by the Supreme Court, which said that, look, this card reader is in the regulations, it's not in the Electoral Act, so you have to follow the process laid down in the Electoral Act, which was manual, which was ticking of the register. But people felt, no, this is subject to so much abuse. Let us limit the interference that men can, women can bring into by this manual process. And that's why we did away with the card reader and said, look, let's use the let's use the BVAS machine, and then let's do transmission of results. If INEC itself was not so enamored to electronic transmission of results, it would not keep on re-emphasizing that this will be done in the off-cycle elections in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State coming in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. It believes, because Nigerians believe that the sanctity of the election is better preserved when there's that level of transparency, when there's less human interference in the process. So the electronic transmission of results will automatically just be transmitted, probably not real time, but as soon as the results are scanned, they'll be transmitted to the IREV, the portal for which any Nigerian from anybody can view from anywhere else. Now, the effect of this Supreme Court judgment of the presidential cases is that, look, these things are not necessarily, they're desirable, but they're not going to be the yardstick by which you judge the fairness for an election. Some people before the election felt that, look, if you don't comply with this, you cannot go on, you cannot proceed to collation. If you do not collate, if you do not compare what has been transmitted to the electronically from a polling unit, you must compare with the manual process before you start transmission. And failure to comply with this, some people before now thought was fatal. The Electoral Act 2023 did not make a consequence of that, but it just said this is the procedure to be followed. So people will want, after this and studying the judgment, look, do we then just jettison this transmission of results? What is the effect? If it's only a directive, not a mandatory provision, then people will not follow it. But generally speaking, I think that there's a fairer understanding, and there's a perspective that the elections are getting better. If you look at it from the position of the outcome, there are many important big names that did not make it onto the declared winners in this election. So in that sense, yeah, maybe. But there's also the fidelity of the commission following through with its own guidelines with the provisions of the law. And where this is not done, sufficient explanation should be done, made by the commission, and there should be consequences if there's a failure on anybody's part. But unfortunately, a lot of people out there felt that it was a deliberate transmission. For example, a non-transmission was a deliberate attempt. I can't speak to that, but INEC has come out to say, look, there were glitches, although the exact nature of those glitches have not been outlined to us, and as such, a lot of people may not have as much confidence in the system as they did in January 2023, now as they did in January 2023.
Thank you for your contribution there. Let's come back to Dr. Shijuade in our studios. You have something to add to what he has said?
Yes. I mean, looking back from 1999 till date, we've made tremendous progress in our electoral process.
Okay.
And the electioneering per se, especially with the game changer, which is the BVAS. Even though it is not recognized in the Electoral Act, it's a very critical part of our electioneering process. And we saw how it weeded out rigging and falsification of results, which we used to have in the past. Now, we have to understand something here. There is electronic voting and electronic transmission of results. We must understand those two things. That's what a lot of people don't understand in Nigeria. And at the last time I was here, I think I tried to explain it. Electronic transmission means that the process is manual. But that manual process, you transmit it into a data stored in a computer, which can be compared. Okay? Later. That's electronic transmission of results.
Okay.
That has not been captured in our law yet, because the process is still manual. The original of our election is that document from EC8 from the polling unit. That's the original. Okay? And that's what you tender in court. Now, electronic voting, that is what we use in NBA, Nigerian Bar Association. Everybody votes on their phone. And we get it in real time. Immediately our election is over, we know the winner. Immediately. Okay? We have not gotten to that stage. Our constitution has not recognized that yet. Our Electoral Act has not recognized that yet. So we must understand these two things. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ademola, let's pause because I know that this is an area of interest for Ezenwa. I think that it's useful to also clarify this point made by their lordships. Because, again, by way of reminder to our viewers, Ezenwa Wangu and Sijo Ade, Kayode were the guests of the Nigerian Television Authority special network coverage of the presidential election petition called Decision on the 6th of September. That was last month. And as I said, we all stayed through, along with Professor Edoba Omorege of the University of Benin, stayed through for well over 13 hours because we were on the studio before the program started. If you recall, gentlemen, their lordships in the Court of Appeal said, or held rather, that IREV was not a collation system. This was reaffirmed by their lordships again yesterday. Collation system. I'm hearing now, and it's been on, they say, and of course you pick that from the street as well, electronic transmission of results. Transmission and collation are not necessarily coterminous. They're not synonymous, are they?
You see, to be honest with you,
I don't want to get into it, but I want to drag you into it.
I've shouted myself once. I've written articles before this this judgment, both the election court and the Supreme Court. I wrote in clear terms that our election is manual. All this other English that we are speaking, because what is transmitted is not figures, is photo. Photo. You finish voting at the polling unit. Everybody looks at it, and then right there, if there is network, you transmit that photo. I mean, you snap that in and then send it to. My idea of it has been that it is a checker. It's simply something with which you can check. It does not by itself. See, what we have been battling with, everybody has been running with, is the inability of the political parties to have a parallel vote tabulation process. Simple. If you have party agents in the polling units, 3 layers of this happens within that polling unit area. From EC8A, the copy of which your party agent should have, not just that he signs, he should have it. When the Honorable Attorney General was in INEC, they improved on it again and brought what you call Form E60E, which I call the People's Result Sheet, which again is the presiding officer is compelled to paste at the center. That one is for the people, because the party agent gets the real copy. The Form E60E becomes that with which the people can snap. So there are these layers. Now, Oga Kingsley, the truth is the relationship between the party and its agents is transactional. As soon as they finish election, the party agents go away. Including with the document, they have nowhere they are going back to.
They don't report back.
There is no report. And we don't want to talk about it. We outsource that conversation and begin to place.
No, who are the we now? The political parties are be more specific.
Including the political parties themselves.
Yes,
they outsource that conversation and make it look like what INEC itself did to help its own process is now the thing. Why did we do this? In 2007, 2011, if you go to the cloud to look for Nigerian election results for 2007, you cannot find them. After the 2023 election, with all the conversations that is going on, if you are a researcher of Nigerian election, go there, you will see results. It's there now. Many people don't even know how to access this IREV. Many who talk about the IREV don't know that how to access that IREF and see what is there. So the point for me is going back to that debate, like I told you when we started, is an unending one. People have determined to. So what does INEC do? Is you like to hear election transmission results? You like to hear electronic transmission? Oh, okay, it's electronic transmission, but nobody bothers to say what is being transmitted. This thing that is being transmitted, is it figures? Do you transmit figures to a place where computation now takes place? It is your work. In Young Africa, we do what we call PVT, parallel vote tabulation, a statistically based, random sample of polling units from which we can, have
make projections.
Make projections. The political parties don't have the patience. Even when they say, and I challenge throughout the election period, I said, can you bring us to what you call your situation room? So that, because we set up situation room, people come around, civil society all around, set up situation room, you can see what is playing, violence, this, that, and then we issued pre-election observation reports, 5, stating first and foremost the presence of political parties, where their spread is in the 774 local governments. Those PRIO reports were not, if it's hanging there. If you ask people, what was the, how many party agents did the PDP have? INEC has that statistics. How many agents does APC have? INEC has that statistics. How many does Labour Party have? How many does AA have? How many does A have? All of those statistics are available on the INEC website for you to know the number of party agents that they deployed to the election that will help them to harvest the Form E60A with which they can do a computation. And then we went, those of you who are learned people, we went to we were watching the tribunal. We were expecting that we will see more of party agents as what do you call them, as witnesses. I was keenly watching because that's in my own layman's understanding. I thought that if you saw, you should be able to.
But you remember what your lordship said with respect to the witnesses who should have been called or the kind of evidence they ought to have presented.
That's what I'm saying. I said it's left for you. I don't know about that. But I'm just saying that for me, as somebody who works in this space, I was expecting that you will bring your party agents, you will bring, all of that. And then I was watching keenly, and I was seeing professors of mathematics, statisticians.
Yeah, there was a Google expert,
all of those things. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I listened to the courts of appeal. I sat through. When I finished, I remember telling you, sir, that this is a master class for illiterates like us to do some jotting, on the various aspects. Now, remember that when a conversation is going on in the street, when we are making this point, they say, no, the courts will determine it. Let the courts determine this thing that you are saying. How can you? Now the courts have said it. We are still saying no. So what do we then want?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Edewa, for that your contribution there. Now we go back to our Kaduna, where we have Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed, are you still with us? Okay, you are. Now, if you are still with us now, I know that the Supreme Court has settled the issues right now. So what we are looking for is responsible governance. So what are the factors do you think is needed to move the country forward? And how do we hold government accountable for their actions?
Mr. Kingsley, why did you boycott me all this time? I've been waiting to give you these solutions. But nevertheless, the factors are, you see, the government is already running an inclusive government. You can see from the appointments, even those that did not vote from, some of the zones of this country, they have been given appointment. so that Nigeria will be a united country, for the 8-point agenda of this government to be able to move smoothly. But before I answer that question, you saw all these things you've been saying in the studio about the transmission of results, about amendment of the Constitution or the electoral law, whatnot. One single factor, that Nigerian factor, unless there is a discipline in all we are doing in Nigeria. Number one, under a discipline, you have fraud, you have armed robbery, you have nepotism, you have everything, all the society is. Unless we do it, I took a cursory look into one of the projects I did in the university. Nigeria's problems and their solutions. Because you can have good solution. When you have bad people, nothing will work well. Number one, if you are a Christian or a Catholic and you are entrusted with a position and you know one day you are going to be answerable to your Creator, you do that thing very well to make sure you have good governance, or you do it very, very perfectly well. If you are a Christian or a Muslim and you are entrusted with a position, you know that one day you are answerable to God when you die. Otherwise, all this corruption is the bane of this country, and that is why even the transmission, even if you have it 100%, it will never work. It will never work until we are disciplined and until we are patriotic and we have the true nationalist tendency. An American citizen is willing to die holding America's flag. Who wants to do that in Nigeria? None. Until when there is a war against total indiscipline in this country, and we know that Nigeria is ours, we don't have any other country apart from Nigeria, then things will start to take shape. Now you can see from the streets, from the social media, the unguided lies, the rumors that has been going on. We need regulation in that aspect too. Then the factors are that, number one, we have 8-point agenda of this government, and the already 25% is going to education. 25% of our total budget that will go to education, that is a lot of money. We will not see restiveness again in the universities, where lecturers every day they continue to go on strike. Then in the agricultural sector, 15% is going there. We have already, they have rolled out the system of food security in this country, and very soon I believe all these things will be taken seriously so that it will reach the farmers. And we will have, if you are a Nigerian from Niger State, in the 60s you produce rice. That rice, we feed, normally they feed Nigeria with it and export. In Kaduna State here, we produce maize. We can produce maize, feed Nigeria, and export. Then the issue of student loan, the president just mentioned it yesterday, that in 2024, everything is already on top gear to make sure that we give student loan. Those, the poor of the poorest in the society, who their parents cannot afford to pay school fees and other things, to go to anywhere they want to study and come back, they will be engaged. The issue of insecurity. The government has an idea to bring special forces in each state to be able to curb the menace of insecurity. So, by the time we have food, good health, good roads, the infrastructures are like what we have about the 61 roads that the previous government was doing. They had not completed them, but this government is willing now to complete all. If we have that and Nigerians are happy, they have 3 square meals, sickness is God that brings it. When you are sick and you are able to take drug at a very, very, very cheap price, you'll be okay. Then the issue of education of our children. I think all we need to do, we need to bring war against indiscipline. We Nigerians are very, very experienced. They are very, very educated. But that one factor of Nigeria, I want to take national cake. That's the bane. And that's why even in the elections, you see in some places ballot box snatching, you see rigging. So all these things.
Dr. Kalani Mohammed, thank you very much. And it was pretty interesting that before you started responding to the question by my colleague, you were trying to resurrect the pleasant ghost of Chief Mbono Jike, boycotter the boycottables, as we knew it then in the First Republic. Certainly there was no intention to keep you out of the conversation. There were more legal issues that were coming up, and we're just going around the guests, and of course we got back to you. I will still get back to you before the program wraps up. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on NTA's network service. We'll take a short break now. All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. All our guests, of course, are still with us in the studios. But let's return to our Benin Network Center. Osazeuzi, you're still there, I imagine. Very quickly, again, as we are speaking not only to professionals and learned persons, we're also speaking to those on the street, wherever they may be, physical street or e-street, if you may. Some have seen that, look, after the February and March elections this year, the off-cycle season elections coming up in a matter of weeks would be an opportunity for INEC to redeem itself. Now, implied in that suggestion is that INEC didn't appear to have performed well in the February and March elections. So otherwise, what would it be seeking to redeem? What would be your suggestions? Because we are hearing again now that INEC says, oh, they will upload the results on AREV, but the utility, if you may, the legal utility of that AREV has been virtually impugned by the lordships.
Very correct, actually. I think INEC realizes that mistakes were made, and it realizes that the trust and confidence of a lot of Nigerians, has been called to question. The trust in the commission as an election management body has been called to question. Both from Vox Populi, the social media, the mainstream media, the news channels, everybody has said, look, you promised so much, and in the eyes of some, you delivered too little, especially when it comes to the issue of electronic, what they understand to be electronic transmission of results. They worked so well in the off-cycle elections in Edo, in Ondo, in Osun. It worked extremely well. People therefore could not understand why it did not work well with the February, especially the February general election, presidential and National Assembly elections. People just could not understand. And for some, it worked well with the National Assembly election itself. What the presidential election conducted on the same day, the IREV transmission of results did not work as well as it should. So yes, the integrity and competence and ability of INEC to conduct impartial elections has been seriously called to question. Its image has been seriously dented. There's no doubt about that. I think the Commission realizes that. That is why these assurances. But some people are saying, what kind of, how much will you take from INEC? You take everything they say with a pinch of salt, because there are assurances given by the top officials of the Commission at every opportunity to say, look, results will be transmitted electronically from the polling unit. So this off-cycle elections and other opportunities starts to begin to regain the trust of Nigerians. Some are hardened, some are going to be turn a deaf ear and be blind to everything good that the Commission does, but it must continue to do exactly that. Step by step, one step at a time, start to rebuild trust and confidence. And the average, I think the average person will begin to, will reluctantly come back because we have no choice. INEC is the election management body that conducts all federal and state elections. So whether you like it or not, elections will continue to happen. And this is the body charged with that responsibility. It's not too good where the people's trust is so badly eroded that they no longer believe in the system. That is a threat to democracy in itself. So I think the Commission has to continue to give these assurances, has to be a lot more transparent in the way it deals with these issues, and information management is key. When things are going all right, when things are not going as well as planned, I think it's important to engage the stakeholders and say, look, this is what we planned, these are the challenges we're having, we are trying to resolve them, and so that when you have trust and confidence, even when you do things that are not in sync with what we believe, they begin to say, well, give them benefit of the doubt. I'm afraid that presently, as we stand today, a lot of Nigerians are not ready to give the Commission that benefit of doubt. But when you look at the other side, when you look at the other aspects, apart from the electric transmission, when you look at the other aspects, and logistics obviously has to be improved upon. But every other thing, when you look critically and objectively, you find that the Commission has done extremely well. And it's just that incremental thing that we'll continue to do to convince Nigerians. And we hope that those two issues that appear to be the biggest challenges will be addressed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Oluwole, for that. Your thoughts there that the electoral body should be more transparent and to build confidence and trust. Isn't what you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I think the current orthodoxy in public conversations around trust has not taken into confidence the gamut of work that was done through the electoral process that went well. So you did the voter registration process. You added nearly 10 million, more than 10 million people into the voter register. That's some work. So we call it process. So then on E-Day, candidate selection issues, all of those, then on E-Day, you did first and foremost the opening of the polls, your beavers, which is also one of the accreditation and voting, went well. There is no contestation because the proof of it is that states that used to do 6 million were not able to do 2 million. Some were boasting before the election that they were going to, you know, throw in 3 million votes, and and then we didn't see that. They couldn't even do 1.5. So what was the work of the beavers? It was to ensure voter identification theft was minimized. So that happened, and I'm not sure there's any contestation about that. So results, the result management process, which we say is poly-unit centric, happened. In all these things, nobody has said that the results that INEC is not in contestation in the court. That's not what we are hearing. The results are not in court. What is in court is that it was not posted on electronically, but the content of the result.
There was also an allegation of irregularities.
Those ones.
Yeah, but I understand the point you are making, but there was also a claim about irregularities, but you have to prove.
That is what I'm saying.
Precisely.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, we are not conducting a church service. We are having elections. So, irregularities should in human processes. But you've been able to do one of the most critical things that has affected our elections in time past, which is the over-bloated results that come from riverine areas, hinterlands, and you bring those humongous figures and then change the whole dynamics of the process. That you were able to deal with. What did that mean? That you now had a situation in which big pockets, big people lost election that we know ordinarily when things were the way it was, that they couldn't have lost. Which means they have not understood these introductions. My argument is that the the orthodoxy of, oh, public confidence, for me, is unstatistical. The reason I say so is that I have said it before, that 13 million people voted a different way. And it is their right to vote a different way.
But those 13 million votes should be disaggregated. Because those 13 million votes were not block votes for one candidate.
No, what I'm saying is that if you take 6 million, 1 million for NNPP, for Labour Party, and for the PDP, if the totality of it were opposed, you can call it opposition.
They didn't vote for the president.
They didn't vote for the president. So if they didn't vote for the president, there is also the issue of economic challenges. What was the climate under which we conducted that election? We conducted election under a climate of decolorization, what do you call it now? Colorization of the naira, fuel scarcity, insecurity, all of those bumping together ate into not just public confidence in the electoral management body, but into the whole system itself. So it was an anger election, if you permit the use of that word. So for me, therefore, is that I've permanently, consistently, and I didn't start this now, you can bear me out, I've always said that the narratives that we push out, if we agree that the electoral process went well, the only challenge we had was that whether through internal subterfuge, that cannot be proven, or whether it is what you could call it force major or whatever, whether it is the act of God,
out of God,
or whatever.
Out of God in this
no,
one.
that's what I'm saying. Whatever
don't bring God into
whatever
it.
the British were. You understand what I'm saying? That aspect of it cannot become there are positives for the 2023
elections.
And those positives outweigh the challenges, and that is what we need to put out.
Okay, all right. Ezenwa, thank you very much for the points that you have raised. But I hope that the point is also been very well noted that where we are talking about getting into electronic transmission of results, you clarified that. Kayode has also spoken about that. We're looking at transmission of numbers, digital figures. Digital, when you computer, you know, 010101. That's the way Bobbit or Babbage. I'm not quite sure, or Babbage. I'm not quite sure what the name is now in elementary history of computing. But there's another issue I would like Dr. Mohammed in our Cardinal Network studios to also talk about. It's one of the points that Ezenwa usually canvasses, and other guests also canvass them from time to time. Political parties and candidates who are ultimate beneficiaries of electoral outcomes would appear to do the least in ensuring that process and procedure and the personnel critical for the success of the process and procedure are on the right page. That, as Ezenwa has pointed out this morning, political parties and candidates tend to outsource this responsibility, and at the end of the day, they end up complaining, or they end up, of course, not getting the right materials to even pose or mount a significant challenge to the outcome as declared by the election management body. How might political parties begin to turn a new leaf?
Very much. As the DG of the Confederation of over 180,000 support groups nationwide for APC, we are already looking into it in APC, internal democracy. And that internal democracy means when a carpenter or a bricklayer or somebody or a shoe shiner, when he stands for election, he should be given the opportunity, when the masses vote for him or voted for him, he should be given that position. Like what happened, you know, in the last election, some of the political parties, or even in APC, some governors just wrote out the list after congresses were held. That brought about conflicts, skirmishes in the system. And there was, I think about last month, I met with the national chairman of our party. He's looking into that one and conflict resolution so that we have a vibrant and a party that, as we are now boasting, is one of the largest party in Africa, that will continue by the grace of God to rule this country in the next decades. So I believe there are a lot of, not only APC, like in PDP the other time, if you look at some states, because you say I should not mention names. So those states, they just selected some candidates and brought them forward for them to be voted for. And in that regard, most members shied away even from the election. And the man they put forward had to, he didn't win election. So what we are saying is that political parties must be concretized by making sure that the right thing is done. Not, and that brings up to four the issue of local government autonomy, giving the state assemblies the possibility to be on their own. They also have autonomy so that the governors cannot be interfering with the activities of these two institutions. By the time we have them independent, things will work well in this country. Mr. Ezewan has said it all on the issue of beavers, on the issue of electronic transmission, the man in Benin also. We have identified our problems. And I believe we need to commend this current chairman too, of INEC. He did his best. Mistakes are there, irregularities, we have noted them. They have to give us chance now to really deliver those promises that you, Mr. Kingsley, mentioned that we want to give to Nigerians. We have rolled out palliatives. Please allow me, I'm a politician. These palliatives, the federal government has given it out. Some governors didn't give this money, these palliatives to the masses. We are monitoring them. We have set up a committee because we want a Nigeria that all and sundry will be happy. Those ministers that are now currently appointed, they must do the right thing. They must carry Nigerians along. If they do that, unlike the previous government, we brought the government, Buhari's government. I was the national vote guard and awareness for Buhari Akasa Atari. But at the end of the day, the right people were not put in the those people that were saying change for good. We didn't see any of them. Those technocrats, engineers, technologists, and the rest of them. So we are monitoring them, the governors. They must, because we learned they just gave out just one mudu of rice instead of them to give them full bag with the necessary accessory attached to it. It didn't happen. So we are going to monitor them. We have set up committee to monitor these governors, to monitor the ministers, and we will be with you, NTA, and other media outfit to make sure that we tell Nigerians.
Dr. Kelani Mohammed, we know that you are eager to continue speaking. Just as we said at the commencement of this program, there is an end to litigation. In the same way, our program, Good Morning Nigeria, runs Monday to Friday, 7 to 9. And that program will take over. If you remain in the studio there, you are talking, nobody's going to see you at home. It's on that note, we'd like to thank you very much. I do hope that we'll have the opportunity of having your contribution to some other topic of interest for conversation. Dr. Kelani Mohammed is the National Coordinator, Confederation of APC support groups. You heard him say a moment ago that support groups are about 180-something thousand. Did I hear you correctly? I'm sure we can deal with that number much later. Thank you very much. From our Benin Network Center, we're joined by Oluwole Osaze-Ozi, learned Attorney General, and Honorable Commissioner for Justice in Edo State, former Director Legal of INEC. Sazazi, always a delight having you on Good Morning Nigeria. Here in our studios, Dr. Sijuade Kayode, Leonard Kayode, thanks a lot for your insight.
Thank you very much.
Ezenwa Unwango, Chairman Partners.
On Leonard.
Ezenwa says he's on Leonard. He's the one saying it, I'm not the one saying it. Ezenwa Unwango, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms. Thank you very much for your insight always at our conversation. So that's it for us on Good Morning Nigeria. Join us on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, enjoy your weekend, but look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley.
And I'm Ademola. Do you have a great weekend? Bye for now.